Ramadan violence continues, this time in Michigan, and yesterday's Georgia election shows that America has finally come to realize that Democrats have nothing to offer America. My name's Howard Riell, and this is Riell Truth. You're listening to the American Freedom Network, streaming live around the world at AmericanNewsNet.com and on Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, Twitter at RiellTruth.com, and the book Riell Truth, Stay Angry. And of course, as always, broadcasting out across the Colorado Front Range on KHNC, Johnstown, Colorado, 1360 AM The Lion. Our call-in number 877-254-7524. My friends, lots to talk about. Let's get started. Item from Breitbart. Democrat Jon Ossoff lost his bid against Republican Karen Handel in Georgia's 6th District special congressional election Tuesday night, representing a stunning rebuke of Hollywood and the numerous celebrities who stumped for and contributed to the Democrats' campaign. Ossoff, a 30-year-old documentary filmmaker turned Democrat politician, had received a steady stream of support from some of Hollywood's brightest stars. Some of the most vocal celebrity critics of President Donald Trump, including Rosie O'Donnell, Jane Fonda, Samuel L. Jackson, donated time and money to help Ossoff's campaign. In April, Jackson cut a 45-second radio ad endorsing Ossoff, urging Georgia's voters to, quote, stop Donald Trump, a man who encourages racial and religious discrimination and sexism, unquote. My friend, Samuel L. Jackson is an anus. Good actor in certain specific roles. He was awful in Star Wars. But he's a fool. And you can see by the stupid things he was saying. Let's continue. Actor John Leguizamo's assertion that democracy itself hinged on Ossoff winning and underscored how desperate Hollywood was to send a resounding message of resistance to Trump's presidency. Unquote. My friends, if the president were here on my show, he might offer his backside for Hollywood to kiss, but, no pun intended, Democrats think, liberals think, that if they put out enough celebrities, enough cheese-headed idiot celebrities, that people will be impressed and vote the way they want them to because they think people are as stupid as the celebrities in Hollywood. No. Americans have common sense. Americans vote what's good for them, what's good for their families, what's good for the country. And a bunch of Hollywood elite rich pinheads coming out and telling us what to do ain't going to cut it. The Democrats have nothing of value for America. No positions, no values, no strategies that have ever worked. Exhibit A, Illinois, longtime Democrat stronghold, is now in the economic toilet. It's Wednesday. It's Riell Truth. We'll be right back.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution. American Window Tinting Incorporated in Wrighttown reminds parents, keep an eye on your child while it's up. Children tend to stray or become lost. This poses an opportunity for a would-be offender to make every effort to keep track of your little ones at all times. If you have information regarding a lost child, call local authorities at once. This message is from American Window Tinting Incorporated in Wrighttown. For residential or commercial window tinting, call 303-263-4228. Piccolo's Restaurant Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's Restaurant Denver is not only best to town in Mexico, but it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo.
My friends, there's only one reason I like to poke fun at liberals. Only one. It's because they're so damn stupid. For example, the liberal media, you either laugh or cry. Here's the headline, all right? I'll just read you the headline. Flint, Michigan. Muslim screaming Allahu Akbar stabs police officer in, quote, possible act of terrorism. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty possible. I want to start with, I want to go back to this election that happened yesterday because it's extremely important. Here is, let's see, what have I got for you? I know I've got some good stuff for you. Here is Rush Limbaugh. No, there we go. Here's Rush Limbaugh. Talking about Karen Handel, John Ossoff. Go.
They are just devastated today. I cannot describe it to you. The media and the Democrat Party are destroyed today. Complete and utter defeat, frustration, devastation, and they have no answers. Greetings, Rush Limbaugh here. Great to have you. Telephone number 800-282-2882. The email address lrushmo@eibnet.com. All they've got is chasing a bunch of Russian ghosts. They are continuing to chase ghosts. They cannot win elections. I know many of you got tired of me pointing out the fact that the Democrats continue to lose elections. Because you said in Russia, it doesn't matter. They're still winning. That's because the media is not on the ballot. The media is running the left wing now, not the Democrats. But the Democrats not being able to win elections means the media has no way of implementing or exercising electoral power. The Democrats' electoral power has never been this low since the 1920s. A New York Times headline, Democrats seethe after Georgia. Quote, our brand is worse than Trump. A prominent Democrat consultant. They are just devastated today. I cannot describe it to you. You're going to have to take my word for it. Just like I asked you to take my word for it back on June the 9th. The pajama boy, Ossoff, is up 49-47, maybe 49-47 and a half over the Republican candidate. And it's getting close. I have people that live there who are sending me notes that are in panic. They've never seen an election in their district this intense, with this many spots on TV, and with this much hatred being bandied about. You can see in the emails, you can read it, they're scared to death that this pajama boy guy, who doesn't even live in the district, is going to win it. I don't think so. Keep your powder dry. The drive-bys want you panicking, just like any other election. They want you thinking all is lost. They want you thinking that Trump and you and everybody else going down, 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 and that they're on this great resurgent path, and they ain't. They're not. And I went on to further predict that they were going to lose this, even on a day that Politico was reporting Ossoff was up by 7 points. There were a couple other polls, and I sat right here behind the golden EIB microphone, and I told you he was not going to win. The Democrats were not going to win this. And I kept getting email from people who live there. Rush, the latest WSB poll, every Democrat is voting for Ossoff and 15% of Republicans are. I wrote back, it's not going to happen. Ossoff is not going to win. They would write back, but all the money, my God, it's Hollywood. That's the way to look at it. They cannot buy an election. They have all this outside money. Folks, they don't know how to connect with people. They nominated a guy who doesn't even live in the district, who they think is the quintessential.
By the way, my friends, let me interrupt here. Does it sound familiar to you? Someone moves to a particular district specifically to run for office. Does the name Hillary Clinton ring a bell? New York. She never lived in New York, but she knew New York was liberal, so she moved there, ran for Senate, and as a New Yorker, I have to tell you, to my embarrassment, my fellow New Yorkers were brainless enough to vote her into the Senate twice. Well, they pretty much got what they deserved. Back to Rush.
So millennial pajama boy, they think this is the way to go after Trump. They have no idea what they're doing. They are not this great vaunted machine that you have always thought of them to be. I'll tell you why. They are being consumed by a number of things. They're being consumed by hatred and rage. They are being consumed by their inability to deal with reality. They have been pursuing ghosts for a year. They dare not enter the arena of ideas. They are still trying. I don't know, what is their objective? Even if they get rid of Trump, it doesn't mean that Hillary is going to be president, but they're not going to get rid of Trump. We say what this election means. This means the Republicans in Washington now have, and I don't think they had an excuse before this, but they really have no excuse now. They have no excuse for not joining the Trump agenda. They have no excuse for not trying to push it forward. They've been waiting, some of them we know, been waiting for Pence. Some of them have been waiting for impeachments. I'm talking Republicans. Some of them have been waiting. They're unsure what's going to happen. They live in Washington. They're affected by the media every day. They do not know. They have not the confidence that you and I have. And so they live with the possibility every day the Democrats are going to succeed in getting rid of Trump. The only way that can happen is if they win the House of Representatives in 2018. And would somebody tell me where there is evidence they're going to do that? They cannot win elections. They spend more money on this election than any congressional election in history. They tried to put together, folks, the way they ran this campaign is the way they've been running campaigns. They go after every victimized group in this country and try to build a coalition out of it. Every victim, every grievance, every group they can find. And then they get money coming in to support a candidate who supposedly is sensitive to all of these victims and all of these groups.
Well, by picking out groups to serve as victims, first of all, the Democrats are fostering a victim mentality, obviously. Second of all, it's divide and conquer. They're turning Americans against each other. Does that sound to you like a good strategy going forward for this country? Item from WorldNet Daily, the European Commission has launched a legal proceeding against 3 European Union member states who refuse to take in refugees. Stop right there. That's a good beginning. Refusing to take in new Muslims is a very, very good first half of the equation. Second half? Well, my friends, you've already got Muslims there, haven't you? We'll be back.
Has been providing a reliable electrical power system in the Rocky Mountain area since 1992. Our systems rely on the sun to help make you self-reliant for your power needs. Solar energy can be scaled to any situation, from complete power independence to backup power for the short term. Our expertise focuses on standalone power, but we have extensive experience with utility interacting systems as well. Custom tailored capabilities, modern emergency lighting, all the way to commercial scale power. Great Plains Power is a full-service company. We service everything we sell. We provide and design turnkey packages, custom-designed parts for yourself. With more than 20 years of specialized experience at your disposal, let us know what your power concerns or goals are. Reach us by phone or the internet. Call 303-239-9963. That's 303-239-9963. Or go to plains.com.
The Lord leads the counsel of the nations to nothing. He makes the plans of the people of no effect. The counsel of the Lord stands forever. The plans of his heart to all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is ruler. The people he has chosen as his own inheritance. Psalm 33, verses 10 through 12.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. This is the American News Network.
All right, my friends, I'm going to make a bold decision here. I'm going to put together two of my favorite people in this segment, Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson. Hannity was on yesterday talking to Camille Paglia, a well-known author, feminist, university professor, talking about the fact that the Democrats have destroyed journalism, and it's going to take decades to recover. Let's listen in.
Camille Paglia is back with us. She wrote a new column, and she talks about a nationwide orgy of rage and spite. How are you?
Hi, John.
Are we gonna go drinking one day? Because I heard you went out with a reporter and drank with him for 8 hours, and you told the best stories. Is that true?
Well, there were 2 meals in the middle of that. I do love beer.
Okay, I'll give you all the beer you want. Here's what I want to... Last time we had you on, and it's funny because a really conservative friend of mine wrote me about you this weekend, and he said, did you ever hear of this woman? I'm like, yeah, I love her. She's a great writer, and she's smart, and she's a feminist, and she's outspoken and iconoclastic. I said all this stuff about you, and you got to read this. Last time you were on, that was pre-ISIS pose, pre-assassination attempts of Republicans, pre-Shakespeare in the Park, and then I read your column, An Orgy of Rage and Spite. I want to get your thoughts.
Well, I'm a Democrat, and I voted for Bernie Sanders in the last election season.
Yeah, by the way, you got screwed. They stole it from you.
Well, I'm committed to the reform of my party, and I am looking forward to voting Democratic again in the next election, hopefully. But all this rage is completely misplaced. I mean, it seems to me that who my fellow Democrats should be mad at is the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton, for heaven's sake. So anyway, that's what they should be mad at. We had plenty of potential nominees, who could have countered Trump. I believe in the
nonsense.
But leading the pack is Joe Biden. And nobody's asking any questions. Why was it the president?
By the way, let me inject a little reality here. Joe Biden is one of the premier horses rectums in all of Washington, D.C., and the thought that Americans would vote for him... Camille, come on.
Obama stepped on Biden. What was going on behind the scenes, that produced that scandal, right? Because Biden would have won, in my view.
Well, I think...
Biden is not going to win anything except maybe dog catcher.
Maybe he would have done better, but I'm not so sure because Biden is just a walking soundbite of stupidity at times. I mean, he can't, you can't go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I mean, that's a lot of dumb stuff.
Biden has a long history, of these gaffes and so on, but he has great rapport, with ordinary people, and he is a moderate. People are familiar with him. There were so many doubts about Trump because he was an unknown, right? And so I do believe that, given how close the election was, right?
All right, now here's the reality. The great thing about Trump, the fantastic thing about Trump is that he was an unknown commodity. He was not the same old beltway, hack, lying politician, sleazebag swamp dweller. That was the whole appeal of Donald Trump going into the campaign. So Camille Paglia is smart, but obviously she's not that smart because she's getting a lot of things wrong. We're only about 2 minutes, 11 seconds into this video. Let's go back to it.
That Biden was pushing over. So all this rage with this massive tantrum, all the Democrats are doing is demonstrating they should not lead.
Correct.
They're demonstrating we are the party you should not elect.
Correct.
Are they crazy? This behavior? I want the Democrats to win.
Nope.
I want them to have a winning strategy. And it doesn't come from this kind of this hatred, of the assassination that voted for Trump, to insult people. Trump wasn't elected because of racism, homophobia, and so on. Trump was elected because he defeated all those nudniks, in the GOP primary who were not nearly good enough.
My friends, anybody who uses the word nudnik can't be all bad.
And if Trump manages to improve the economy and produce more jobs, in this country, he will be reelected. It's simple as that.
What do you make of all of the violent rhetoric? I mean, for example,
it's outrageous. It shows that the Democrats are nothing now but words and fantasy and hallucination.
Absolutely correct, my friends. Camille Paglia is a mixed bag. On the one hand, she says some really stupid things. On the other hand, she says some really smart things. So where do you go with someone like that? Well, you just press the button and listen some more. Let's go.
And Hollywood. There's no journalism left. What's happened to the New York Times? What's happened to the major networks? There's an outrage.
Excuse me, the New York Times has always been crap. Don't think that the New York Times suddenly went off the deep end. New York Times has always been fake news spinning to the left. That has been the case always, all the way back to World War II, and they would not write about the Holocaust. Let's continue.
I'm a professor of media studies in addition to professor of humanities, okay? And I think it's absolutely grotesque the way my party has destroyed journalism.
Correct.
Right now. It's going to take decades to recover from this atrocity that's going on, where the news media have turned themselves over into the most childish, fraternity kind of buffoonish behavior.
This is why I love your writing so much. You've got this flair that nobody else I know has.
Excuse me, Sean. I have that flair too. He's never heard of me. That's okay.
You know, one of the things that I kind of pride myself a little bit on is being right a lot. And this is not spoken out of egotism or arrogance. Because we waited, way back early in my career, I waited on Richard Jewell. I ended up being right. I waited on Trayvon Martin. I was right. The media was wrong. Ferguson, Missouri, same thing. Baltimore, same thing. And Duke Lacrosse is another case. But I was also right about Obama's policies would not be good for America. I think the facts bear that out now. And I think was also right that Trump could win. And now we live in a world of conspiracy theory, black helicopter conspiracy theory TV. You say it's going to take decades to recover. I don't see how they can ever recover.
Well, journalism has really collapsed partly because of the arrival of the web, which I adore. I love writing for the web. But as the different cities, the regional newspapers have foundered and in some cases disappeared, what we're getting now is this concentration of news reporting coming from the coast, okay, which is really bad. Okay, so we're not getting the kind of voices of the heartland that we used to. Not only that, but education has changed so that young people are not.
What does the failure of newspapers have to do with news or commentary coming out of the heartland? I'm not sure, but I think they have computers and the internet in the Midwest too. Don't they, Camille?
Getting any exposure to history. Okay? They know nothing about world history. They know nothing about world geography. Okay, they don't know. They're taught to have positive, attitudes and to be humane and compassionate and so on, but they're not taught the basic framework of world history. This
Correct.
is why you get all this crap about how America is the worst place on earth when it's like the freest country in the history of the world. And young people today have had absolutely no exposure to the famines and the war and the disasters, okay, of history. I mean, they need to be exposed to the past, and they have no sense of the past. Whatever, everything's the present.
It's so interesting you say that, because one of the things I fear is that we're living in a bubble in terms of people's lack of education, lack of even simple, basic, fundamental curiosity.
He's right. And the bubble is bursting, and it's going to continue bursting because you can't be strident and ignorant for very long. It's a toxic mixture, and sooner or later it becomes a flammable mixture. Americans, especially young Americans, know so little. They don't want to know more. They just want to be entertained. And that's the cliff that we're headed for.
And, when I wrote a book years ago called Deliver Us from Evil, I really just laid out the previous 100 years of human history. You got over 100 million dead people slaughtered in the name of government. Okay, it seems to me that there is an ostrich in the sand type of quality to the world today, where there are people that don't think this can happen again in the age of ISIS, radical Islam, mullahs in Iran, North Korea. And I'm like, you people better wake up. We have the potential for a human catastrophe like we've never seen before, and don't think it can't happen. It will.
Well, all it will take is someone to figure out how to sabotage the power grid in the United States.
Bingo.
And everything will collapse. And we're going to return to savagery and barbarians in the street and famine. Okay, again, it's all these people who they assume they can just switch on a light and turn on a faucet. Everything works. They have no sense of how it works. Business, okay, and the material frame of culture, okay, and capitalism, okay, which emancipated the modern woman, right? And so there's all this rhetoric. And see, I've been saying for 25 years that people need religion. Now, I'm an atheist, okay, but I predicted 25 years ago, okay, that secular humanism was on the skids. And that's what's happened, because secular humanism has no spirituality to it.
I want to take your class. We'll take a break. We'll come back.
My friends, what she's saying is in the main correct. Now, she's talking about liberalism and what it's done to journalism. Okay, let's stick with the topic of liberalism. Here's Tucker Carlson on Fox News talking to an African-American student who says she should be getting free tuition as reparations for slavery. What's that, you say? Not possible? Here's Tucker Carlson.
Well, of course.
It's Adrian Ambam, by the way.
I beg your pardon. In either case, we're glad to have
That's
you.
fine.
So I understand the reasoning. I think it's really clear. I don't think I agree, but there's no mystery about what this is about. But some of the details are unclear. So, for example, would the benefits from this include black students whose families weren't in the United States during the slaveholding period? Recent arrivals, for example.
I actually can't hear you very clearly. Let me try turning up the volume.
If you would. So let me just restate my question. Of course. The question is, would this apply to students whose families weren't here when slavery existed in the United States? So a lot of recent immigrants from Africa, the Caribbean, would they benefit from this?
So when we talk about reparations, we're definitely specifically talking about people who have direct ties to slavery, Jim Crow, and segregation. I think that there are separate but just as important conversations to have about African immigrants, Caribbean immigrants who come here and also face racial discrimination that inhibits them from education as well.
So even people whose families didn't suffer under state-sponsored discrimination or under slavery would be entitled to that. Those groups tend to do, as I'm sure you know from looking at the numbers, pretty well. In a lot of cases, out-earn native-born Americans. Why would they be entitled to this also, or to any special consideration?
So you're using the word entitled, and I don't know if that's the right word. When we talk about...
Excuse me, young lady. When you come up in public and say, gimme, 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 gimme money because it's coming to me, that's entitlement.
Immigrants who come here and face racial discrimination. I can actually speak on this very uniquely because I am the daughter of immigrants who came here. There is unique discrimination that faces African immigrants that many people don't talk about.
All right, let's talk about this, sweetie. Every single country in the world has racial strife to one degree or another. Look, I'm white. I'm Jewish. For a long time, Jews were very discriminated, not only in Europe for 20 centuries, but in America too, where there are hotels and golf clubs and country clubs. Jews were not allowed to enter. So my question is, where are my reparations? Now, it's a rhetorical question because I have too much pride to accept reparations from anybody. Why don't you have that much pride? You don't seem to have that much pride at all. You want people to give you money. How about getting off your ass and working for your money? Not possible?
I feel like as this proposal specifically focuses on Black Americans who have dealt with the effects of slavery and the inability...
Actually, that's nonsense. As Walter Williams points out, of course, he's the African-American professor, sits in for Rush Limbaugh once in a while. Black Americans were doing just fine. All the way through the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, families were together, education was up. Then along came liberal policies, anti-poverty policies of LBJ and everything after that. And at that point, Black America began to get weaker, less educated, broken up. And if the reasons are easy to see, it's just human psychology. So the fact that the proposition that Black Americans today are suffering from slavery is hooey. It's nonsense. Ain't happening. What is happening in America today is there are people with so little self-respect that they don't mind going out in public and saying, gimme, 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 gimme. Young lady, not going to happen. Go ahead.
Pass on wealth, which is really the big point that makes these groups disenfranchised and unable to get to college as readily as some groups are.
You know what? That's crap to such a degree. I'm cutting this short. It's just so ridiculous, especially after decades of affirmative action. Decades of affirmative action, and there are still people who insist on playing victim. It doesn't strike me as even something to take seriously. So we won't take it seriously. Tucker Carlson, okay, if he wants to, he can. Not on my show. We'll take a break and we'll come back with more news, more analysis, my friends. Go nowhere.
superfood from VitalAge.com. And now, supplement instead of pennies. The Vital Superfood formula are full of products developed with four of the most nutrient-dense algae found on Earth. Vital Superfood for the brain, filled with focus, memory, protein, and food. Yet you can drink brain health. The rest of the body is no brain. Vital Superfood has zero toxicity and is safe for you and your family. And order your Vital Superfood formula at VitalAge.com. Spelled VitalAge.com. VitalAge.com. Or call 877-877-288-9116. VitalAge. Great Plains Power has been providing reliable electrical power system in the Rocky Mountain area since 1992. Our systems rely on the sun to help make you self-reliant for your power needs. Solar energy can be scaled to fit any situation, from complete power independence to backup power for the short term. Our expertise focuses on standalone power, but we have extensive experience with utility interactive systems as well. Custom-tailored capabilities and modern emergency lighting all the way to commercial scale power. Great Plains Power is a full-service company. We service everything we sell, provide and design turnkey packages, custom design system, and parts for do-it-yourself. With more than 20 years of specialized experience at your disposal, let us know what your power concerns or goals are. Reach us by phone or the internet. Call 303-239-9963. That's 303-239-9963. Or go to greatplainsolar.com. And the first became flagship both among us, and we beheld his glory. The glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness of him and cried out, saying, This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
All right, folks, welcome back. Howard Riell Truth. And I've said it many times on this show. I've been asked, what's the greatest threat facing the United States of America? And the answer is obvious. It's liberalism. I'm not the only mental wizard who's figured that out either. Here are the guys on InfoWars talking about how Democrats, not Vladimir Putin, are the real threat to America. Let's listen in.
So let me get this straight. The DNC won't cooperate with the FBI. The DNC won't cooperate with DHS. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is threatening those people for doing investigations. Seth Rich has died. Sean Lucas has died. Wisenhunt Jr. in Florida, the prosecutor, has died. It's clearly the Russians. I think the story with the Democrats pretending this narrowing the margin of victory is a good thing, is that they're just going to spend more money. We'll just spend more money, and then we'll be even closer next time. Of course, that's not going to work.
And of course, the presidential race did.
And this is the party that says they're all about income inequality, getting that income gap, figured out. They're going to help with that. They're going to fix that. And then they spend more money on elections than they do the actual people that are poor, living in the lower poverty grid. But it's funny, as you talked about all those voter rolls that the DHS admittedly, or the DHS is claiming Russia was probing. The DHS is the one that actually hacked the elections.
Why does Vladimir Putin want the voter rolls in Georgia?
Well, and it's funny.
I can tell you why the Obama administration and the Democrats would want it.
Well, and it's funny because he says that he knows Putin orchestrated it, but then he admits that he can't possibly know that because the DNC isn't cooperating with this investigation to begin with. But hold on a second now. Let's recall, who might have information about the Democrat voter rolls? Who might have had that information? Who might have had access to those voter logs in that IT department? Seth Rich. Huh. Oh, but he's no longer with us. May he rest in peace. So how convenient is that for the DNC that admits or that won't share? They will not share with the FBI. They will not share with DHS the details or the emails or the data that they need to do this investigation. So let's go to Jay Johnson today, though. These are some clips from today, and there's, I mean, literally the most unbelievable quotes, again, coming out of this nonsense of a hearing. We have all kinds of collusion on the Democrat side of it, literally a lawsuit against the DNC, but we're still looking around everywhere for Russia collusion that doesn't exist. So here's Jay Johnson, though, saying that he knows it was Putin that orchestrated the cyber attacks.
In 3 years as Secretary of Homeland Security, I had the privilege of testifying before Congress 26 times. Though it is no longer part of my job description, I voluntarily accepted the invitation to be here today as concerned private citizen.
Oh, he's so transparent.
In 2016, the Russian government, at the direction of Vladimir Putin himself, orchestrated cyber attacks on our nation for the purpose of influencing our election. That is a fact, plain and simple. Now, the key question for the president and the Congress is, what are we going to do to protect the American people and their democracy?
Okay, so there he is. He says he knows for a fact that it was Russia and Putin that did it. And what are we going to do? We have to do something. This is an assault. This is an assault on our country and our infrastructure. We must do something. Okay, so we'll address that in a second. But how?
Well, let me address something right now. Jay Johnson was part of the Obama administration. The Obama administration was one of the very worst presidential administrations in this nation's entire 240, almost 241-year history. They did more harm than any other administration going back at least a century. So why would anyone want to hear any opinions expressed by anyone from that administration? They were such a boondoggle, such a debacle, such a disaster for America. Why are we still listening to anything they have to say? Good question, right? Let's go back to the video.
How can he possibly know that with this clip that Johnson said later in his testimony?
As to what was offered them, what they accepted, was there any level of cooperation at all?
DNC,
to my disappointment, not to my knowledge, sir. And this is a question I asked repeatedly when I first learned of it. You know, what are we doing? Are we in there? Are we helping them discover the vulnerabilities? Because this was fresh off the OPM experience, and there was a point at which DHS cybersecurity experts did get into OPM and actually help them discover the bad actors and patch some of the exfiltrations, or at least minimize some of the damage. And so I was anxious to know whether or not our folks were in there.
Inside the damage.
And the response I got was FBI had spoken to them. They don't want our help. They have CrowdStrike.
They have CrowdStrike. That's the key thing. That's a Democrat contractor. CrowdStrike was hired by the Democrats. They were running their IT system. And when this stuff came out, they said, we were hacked, and it was the Russians. And yet the guy who got all this stuff, Julian Assange, said it was not a state actor. It was turned over to us. Julian Assange has never lied to us. These people have given us nothing but lies. And CrowdStrike, a DNC contractor, refused to turn over or allow access to those servers. How do they do that? Well, of course, this is because it's all political. They'd invented this not only to cover up for Hillary Clinton losing, but to cover up for their illegal surveillance of political opponents. This is the big story. When Megyn Kelly was here, she asked me, what do you think about Putin? I guess she wanted me to comment on her interview. I said, I'm not concerned about Putin. I'm concerned about people like Clapper and Hayden and these others who are using our intelligence community as a politicized weapon against their opponents. And that's what we're seeing here. This Russian fake.
Wait, so let me get this straight.
Covering that up.
So let me get this straight. The DNC won't cooperate with the FBI. The DNC won't cooperate with DHS. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is threatening those people for doing investigations. Seth Rich has died. Sean Lucas has died. Wisenhunt Jr. in Florida, the prosecutor, has died. It's clearly the Russians.
Yeah.
It must be the Russians. It's the Russians. Now, we've got the story on the other side. It must be the Russians that are classifying the documents in the Obama library that would show that it was Susan Rice that was unmasking names. That must be the Russians, too.
That's real obstruction of justice. That is what should be investigated.
And it must be the Russians that were meeting on the tarmac with Loretta Lynch. It must have been the Russians That was the DNC chair, John Podesta, making stock deals with other Russians. That must have been the Russians, too. It's all the Russians.
My friends, make no mistake about it. Building the wall is vitally important. Repairing our economy, vitally important. Redoing healthcare, vitally important. But the most important thing, the single most important thing Donald Trump is trying to accomplish for you and for me and for all of America is to drain the swamp. That's number one. The reason he's involved in all these firefights every day is because the swamp on the left and on the right has to bring him down because he's going to take their power away. We have to help. We have to help Trump. He wants to give the government back to us. The swamp wants to stop him from doing it. We can't just sit with our feet up and watch the fight and say, hey, that's interesting. We've got to get involved. We've got to get active. We've got to support Trump and what he's doing. He is an outsider. He is a disruptor. And he is in a pitched gun battle, if you will, with the swamp. The swamp is our enemy. The swamp has been our enemy for a very long time. And this country won't survive if the swamp continues to be our enemy for another long time. Now is the time we got to drain that swamp, my friends. Now, not later. Now, we'll take a break and we'll be back. More Riell Truth ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Phillips, founder of the Green Earth. Well, it had to happen. The Colorado legalized marijuana. Most people thought the Green Earth was a marijuana dispensary. Also, it was legalized on January the 1st, 2014. The same day we opened our new location, 3565 Kimpton Street, 1.5 blocks south of I-7. There are 83,000 cars a day passing in front of our new location on Kimpton Street, and most of them thought we were a marijuana dispensary. So we changed the name of our retail store to New Genesis Health, but kept the name of our Green Earth Summit. But when you come to our new location, look for our new name, New Genesis Health, or call us at 888-765-HERB. That's 888-765-4372. And be sure to listen to the Healthy Nature Show with Mr. Phillips every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Now, this is the testimony of John, the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, who are you? He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, I am not the Messiah. And they asked him, what then? Are you Elijah? He said, I am not. Are you the prophet? And he answered, no. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 19 through 20. The associates at your 24-hour long super center how many were the noble righteous vessels of the courageous of the United States Armed Forces. These brave men and women and their families who have fulfilled for our freedom every day, and the military care packages today for those who know that they are in our path. And our prayers have been thought. This message is from the associates at your 24-hour Raw Nurse Super Center on Highway 287 in Lafayette. They're on the air because they hit.
My friends, let me tell you something about lies. Lying to someone is the ultimate form of disrespect. You lie to someone when you think he's a fool. Well, the Democrats have been lying to Americans for decades. Up until this very moment, all this garbage about Russian collusion is a lie. They don't respect the American people. They don't give them the truth. They treat them like fools to be manipulated. Let's go back to Rush Limbaugh talking about exactly this. This is from earlier today. Go.
Let me give it a short takeaway here, folks. You have no idea the degree to which the media and the Democrat Party are destroyed today. I'm talking about how they feel. You have no idea. I don't care what you watch, care what you read, you will not be allowed a peek inside what they really feel, which is complete and utter defeat, frustration, devastation, and they have no answers. All they've got is chasing a bunch of Russian ghosts They're back at it again today with another congressional hearing. And Jay Johnson, another vaunted Obama administration guy, brought back up. And he was being asked today about what they knew about Russians tampering and hacking with the election. I just want you to hear this. Mike Conaway from Texas. One of our purposes this morning to reassure the American public with respect to the election. And look at what we do in the future. You said in your prepared remarks, Jay Johnson, that to your knowledge, no vote tallying changes. No one voted one way and it was recorded some other way. Is that still your opinion? That with respect to the 2016 election, the intrusions, whatever they might have been by whoever, the vote was not affected.
Based on everything I know, that is correct. I know of no evidence that through cyber intrusions, votes were altered or suppressed in some way.
So what are we doing here? They are continuing to chase ghosts. They cannot win elections. I know many of you got tired of me pointing out the fact that the Democrats continue to lose elections. Because you said to me, Russia doesn't matter. They're still winning. That's because the media is not on the ballot. The media is running the left wing now, not the Democrats. But the Democrats not being able to win elections means the media has no way of implementing or exercising electoral power. The Democrats' electoral power has never been this low since the 1920s. A New York Times headline, Democrats seethe after Georgia. Quote, our brand is worse than Trump. A prominent Democrat consultant. They are just devastated today. I cannot describe it to you. You're going to have to take my word for it. Just like I asked you to take my word for it back on June the 9th. The pajama boy, Ossoff, is up 49-47, maybe 49-47 and a half over the Republican candidate. And it's getting close. I have people that live there who are sending me notes during panic. They've never seen an election in their district this intense, with this many spots on TV, and with this much hatred being bandied about.
My friends, I started this segment talking about lies and disrespect. How much disrespect do the Democrats have for the people in Illinois, for the people in Georgia, rather, to float a candidate who doesn't even live in Georgia? They imported him to run for office. How much respect does that show for voters in Georgia? My God.
You can see in the emails, you can read it, they're scared to death that this pajama boy guy, who doesn't even live in the district, is going to win it. I don't think so. Keep your powder dry. The drive-bys want you panicking, just like any other election. They want you thinking all is lost. They want you thinking that Trump and you and everybody else going down, 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 and that they're on this great resurgent path, and they ain't. They're not. And I went on to further predict that they were going to lose this, even on a day that Politico was reporting Ossoff was up by 7 points. There were a couple of other polls, and I sat right here behind a golden EIB microphone, and I told you he was not going to win. The Democrats were not going to win this. And I kept getting email from people who live there. Rush, the latest WSB poll, every Democrat is voting for Ossoff and 15% of Republicans are. I wrote back, it's not going to happen. Ossoff is not going to win. They would write back, but all the money, my God, it's Hollywood. That's the way to look at it. They cannot buy an election. They have all this outside money. Folks, they don't know how to connect with people. They nominated a guy who doesn't even live in the district, who they think is the quintessential millennial pajama boy. They think this is the way to go after Trump. They have no idea what they're doing. They are not this great vaunted machine that you have always thought of them to be. I tell you why. They are being consumed by a number of things. They're being consumed by hatred and rage. They are being consumed by their inability to deal with reality. They have been pursuing ghosts for a year. They dare not enter the arena of ideas. They are still trying. I don't know what is their objective. Even if they get rid of Trump, it doesn't mean that Hillary is going to be president. But they're not going to get rid of Trump. Let me tell you what this election means. This means the Republicans in Washington now have, and I don't think they had an excuse before this, but they really have no excuse now.
Well, I said before, my friends, they have never had an excuse. The reason the Republicans haven't done anything is because they're part of the swamp. Let me go back to this WorldNet Daily piece before we hit the commercial. I gave you the first paragraph. Let me give you the whole thing. The European Commission has launched legal proceeding against 3 European Union member states who refuse to take in refugees. Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic have been accused of not fulfilling their obligations outlined in the 2015 plan to relocate migrants from Italy and Greece to help ease the burden. Quote, I regret to see that despite our appeal, blah, 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 the Commission is now launching infringement procedures, blah, 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 blah. The Polish and Hungarian governments refuse to take anyone in, while the Czech Republic initially accepted 12 people, but has since said it would not welcome any more, unquote. My question to America is, why is it Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic are smarter than we are? They don't want to import terrorists. Why do we? What kind of sickness is it in our heads that says, yeah, a certain percentage of them will come here and blow things up and rape women and cut heads off and shoot people and drive into crowds, but, you know, you got to do it. What kind of sickness is that? We'll take a break, my friends. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up here on Riell Truth. Stick around. We've got 4 minutes left. Let's make them count. Let's make them count. Item from CNN. A police officer was stabbed in the back and neck Wednesday, that's today, in an airport in Flint, Michigan, by a man yelling, Allahu Akbar. The suspect is in custody being questioned, according to authorities. The FBI said it believed the man that the attack was a, quote, isolated incident, and is investigating whether or not it was an act of terrorism, unquote. My friends, there are some things in life you can be certain of. 2 and 2 equals 4. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And when there is a terrorist act, the very, very first thing the authorities will do is say, we don't know if it's terror or not. Here's a little wisdom to live by. If someone stabs you in the neck screaming, Allahu Akbar, it's probably terrorism. By the way, I just point out, for information's sake, Michigan is the state in the United States with the largest Muslim population. Item from the New York Post. A Brooklyn financier was found naked and dead in his Tony Dumbo pad after a gay bondage hookup went awry, police sources said. Neil Rodney Smith, 57, CEO of the investment firm Infraxis, was discovered lying on his back in bed with a wet towel stuffed in his mouth and a pillow over his face inside his apartment in New York, in Brooklyn, unquote. He went online and hooked up with some guy, whatever they were doing. He died, a police source said. So tell me something. This guy hooked up with another gay guy, got himself tied up, and then was killed. And so my question is this. Are we supposed to feel sorry for him? I don't. Item from WorldNet Daily. A new study has concluded that as many as 5.7 million non-citizens may have voted in the 2008 election won by Barack Obama, giving credence to President Trump's much maligned claim that more than 3 million illegal alien voters cost him the nationwide popular vote last November. A research group in New Jersey called Just Facts announced it found that after examining post-election polling data, the number of non-citizens voting illegally in the U.S. elections is likely far greater than previous estimates, the Washington Times reported. As WorldNet Daily reported in March, many election experts agree with the president that widespread vote fraud exists, including illegal alien voting. But they think it's unwise to make any estimates of the number of illegal voters because there's no hard data at the moment. Yet that likely will change with access now to records that were kept under wraps by the Obama administration. My friends, think of one thing. It's not only illegal aliens who voted. It's also dead people who voted. They got the names, social security numbers, what have you, of dead people, and people went to the polls representing the dead people and voted a second or third or a fourth time. The whole Democrat voting bloc is a sham and a fake and a farce. It's yet another way in which the Democrats display zero respect for American voters, for their own constituents. That's why they screwed Bernie Sanders out of the nomination, because they don't care what Democrats want. They're going to tell Democrats what they want. And so the question for Democrats is, what the hell is wrong with your head that you'll support a political party that treats you like trash? I want to give you some time to think about that question, because you may be stupid in other areas of your life too. Consider this a wake-up call. If you're a longtime Democrat voter, it's time to get smarter. That's my piece. I'll be back tomorrow and we'll finish up for the week. My friends, stay safe. Stay healthy. Stay angry. Hasta luego.